we're happy to hear.
Okay, so I wanted to get started asking about the development of the docuseries and what that inspiration it was in telling the story in the series overall, and just how the project got started as well.
Showtime brought me a sort of general idea of potentially doing a series about missing and murdered Indigenous women, and I instantly knew if I were going to carry on as a white man, I wanted and desperately needed an Indigenous partner in this, because I knew nothing about MMIW. You know, I've made documentaries for 20 years, but I know what I don't know, and I didn't want to move forward with this unless it was going to be done in the most authentic possible way. So I brought Razelle on, and together we developed this, and have directed the series together, and here we are 3 years later.
Yeah, so when Matthew first approached me with this series idea, I was hesitant, but upon talking with him about how our collaboration would work, I had the choice to step up and help take this project on, or leave it to somebody else. But I knew deep within inside myself that I could help lead the team with cultural competency, with the mental and emotional and spiritual strength that these families needed to get their stories and their truth out there to the world.
And I wanted to also ask about getting to direct the show together and what that experience was like once production began to really collaborate as well.
Sorry,
Well,
could you just repeat that?
Yeah, I was asking about once production began on the series, what your experience was like working together as co-directors and how you approached directing the show overall together as well.
Well, Matthew and I had been working together in pre-production for a while, and when we segued to on-location shoots and into actual photography and production of the series, it was very natural for us to be on set together and to kind of tap in and tap out when it came to interviewing different family members, law enforcement, and pretty much everybody in the series. And it was good. We just talked to one another, you know. That's really the basis of every collaboration, is communication. And when one person was leading the day, the other person was working on the next day, prepping for that, and so on and so forth. So
it really did feel, I mean, it was for the common good. It's like, I feel like we both checked our egos at the door, and it was sort of like, okay, we're a two-headed directing machine, and how best to utilize both of our strengths and our knowledge and our experiences to get the best result, and ultimately make the most honest and most accurate and best series we could possibly make. And we are premiering this week at Sundance. So you know, I would say this collaboration was an overwhelming success.
And also, speaking about premiering now at Sundance, what's that experience been like for you both as well, and gearing up for the premiere and getting to share with audiences at the festival, and maybe already hearing some feedback from people about the show as well?
Well, it's been overwhelming at first. There's a lot going on here during Sundance weekend, and at the end of the day, it's being able to share why this series is important and why people should watch it. That's always at the forefront, and that's always my goal, is to ensuring that folks are aware that this series exists. And even though it's been very busy, it's been really amazing to connect with like-minded folks and people who want to get behind the cause, because ultimately that's what it's about.
I mean, it's exciting on two fronts for the series. One is that it gets a stage like Sundance. The issue gets a stage like Sundance. It gets people writing about it. it gets us doing interviews like this one to be able to talk about it. And then it's going on Showtime in 2 weeks. And that is equally as exciting. And then it gets, blasted out to millions of people around the globe. It's the most important thing. So to be able to launch a series as important and a topic as important as this one out to the world in this way is, I don't think we could ask for a better launch pad than this.
And also speaking about having the show play on Showtime as well overall, and what's that experience been like as well, and securing that distribution and gearing up for that official release as well.
Showtime is that they've been amazing partners on this project. I did a series for them a few years ago called Murder in the Bayou. They're one of the very, very few networks that will take a chance and support really complex and serious subject matter and do it in a way that is engaging and can be brought to a wide audience. And I don't know of many others besides Showtime. So they from the beginning said what they wanted us to make the best and most authentic series possible, and they gave us the bandwidth and the resources to do that. They've been incredible.
Yeah, Sundance and Showtime, in my opinion, are like, in the sense that they are known for showcasing bold content. And with something as serious as the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women, that can be construed as bold to the greater society. For us as Indigenous folks, unfortunately, this crisis is an everyday reality for us. So I'm really grateful to Showtime for not only giving this issue a platform, but giving us the green light to be as authentic, honest, and real about it as possible. And that matters. We needed that uninhibited parameters to do this project.
They didn't treat it like a widget. This wasn't a TV show that we were making. This was reporting on a very serious topic, and they paid it the utmost respect, and we're very grateful for that.
And now with the show set to premiere soon, and also in recent years increased news coverage as well, and especially in that area of Montana, has the what's been going on there with Indigenous women really been brought to light, and has there been any changes there? So what's been going on just with the increased coverage on that area been like overall as well?
I mean, unfortunately, not much has changed. There's still relatives going to sing. There's still people turning up as deceased where families don't know what happened to them. I would say with the increased amount of coverage in media, it's a constant process of advocating, of spreading awareness, of these grassroots movement having to be on point to ensure that there's somebody listening out there somewhere. And that's the unfortunate reality. And what we did with the series was just try to elevate the visibility of this issue in the community and these families.
So I wanted to ask a little bit more about the interviews and deciding who you wanted to include in the series as well, and how you approached getting the interviews with the law enforcement, and then also the families, and what that experience was like as well, and securing those interviews.
Well, I'll talk about the families, Matthew. It was difficult to talk with these families about what happened to them, and to talk about their loved ones who have gone on, or their loved ones who are currently missing. It's always a difficult process having to reopen old wounds, but we worked a lot to build trust and to ensure that the space was safe for them to be brave enough to be honest and vulnerable with us. The last thing we want to do is go into a community or go into a family's home and not respect them. So it's talking about collaboration. It was really up to families what they wanted to share with us and what they didn't want to share with us. And when you're doing something like this, that is an absolute necessary.
Law enforcement was a very different situation. I mean, from day one, we had been trying to get in touch with the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office. I mean, dozens of times. They're a complete stonewall. The FBI would refuse to sit for an interview. The Bureau of Indian Affairs would not participate. Ultimately, we did interview the former undersheriff of Bighorn County. He was sort of the sole law enforcement representative within that county. We had interviewed a detective from Yellowstone County for Shikai Blue Harding's case, but he could only do the interview because he had resigned from the sheriff's department and moved to Idaho and felt emboldened enough to do this without fear of retribution from the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office. So there was just a complete lack of transparency, top to bottom, in law enforcement in that area, which frustrated us, obviously, as storytellers, but more importantly, and in a much more profound way, it frustrated the families who were trying to get answers for their loved ones.
Mhm.
And also in terms of the storytelling throughout the episodes, I also wanted to ask about the editing process and how you approached how you wanted to tell each family story in each of the episodes, and just what your approach to editing the series was like over.
We wanted to be as truthful and authentic as we possibly could with these stories, and really the family members were the ones telling the story. We don't have a narrator, and that was very important to us, is to tell it from within. I mean, this series from beginning to end only has interviews with people that have direct links to these cases, whether they're family members or journalists or ex-law enforcement, or in the case of Lucy Simpson, who's the executive director of the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, which is in Lame Deer, Montana. She has advocated for these cases for years. And so what was the question? Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Just the process of editing the story for the series and how you just approached putting
Right.
everything.
Sorry, we were talking about editing. We started out knowing that we were making I'm not going to use the term true crime, but a crime-based series. There were crimes that were committed in this area. But ultimately, we used that almost as a Trojan horse to get at much more important issues. We're all for the widest audience watching the series, and those that are interested in the crime genre and those that are not interested in the crime genre. So the editing was twofold. You had the cases themselves, but there's also the historical aspect of the series. And we think the power of the series comes from the way that those two things interact and inform one another. The fact that the history of colonization and all of the issues that has caused sort of has culminated in a perfect storm that puts Native women in very vulnerable situations in these areas, including the three women whose cases we were dealing with.
Yeah, we knew early on that there wasn't going to be an easy ending for this series. And so right away we had to kind of pick and choose and figure out how we want to structure and orient everything that happens in the series. But ultimately we knew that the humanity of the families and this crisis is at the forefront. So that's what we wanted to leave viewers with, um, is understanding more on a human level why this issue is so important, and why something needs to happen, because America is largely uneducated, not only about the history of Native peoples, but our current day present issues, and who we are in general.
Yeah, I think that was mainly it. But thank you both again for taking the time out to speak with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for
You're
having
welcome.
us.
Thanks again.